Good evening, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to another lovely evening of Jaybird watching. I am Craig Borden, your host this week. Adam Corsair, my buddy. How you doing?
Yo, we're bringing it back. Jay's Journal / South to the Six style with JBW here tonight.
There it is. I like it. And, or it's just the Beard Gang. I know yours is a little more epic still, but whichever way it is. But to that point, it's not quite today. Yeah, to that point, unfortunately, where the game is going this evening with all the fun and everything, unfortunately, we're not getting ready for playoff beards yet. But to that point, let's talk with the quote unquote upside in the Blue Jay fandom first here before we dive into two other things that are like gloom and doom, it seems like at this point in Blue Jays fandom. But there's been plenty of video over the last couple of days, Mr. Corsair, that George Springer looks like he's actually doing pretty damn good from a quote-unquote pretty rough injury that we all were expecting to not even maybe even get him back this month even, especially into, have a extended stay of having maybe a month of him being healthy even at that point. Nothing's been official for tonight's game yet as we're recording this at, 7 o'clock on Wednesday evening, but it sounds like he could actually be back over the weekend or before the weekend here, Adam.
Yeah, I think there was a tweet from Shai Davidi saying that they're going to, I think Montoyo said he's not going to be back tonight or tomorrow. So I think he's going to not play the rest of the White Sox series. Here it is. Charlie Montoyo says George Springer won't be activated in the next 2 days. He will run bases again tomorrow, so that being Friday, with next steps determined afterwards. So you're probably right. I think we'll see him come maybe Saturday or Sunday, but we're definitely not going to see him for the remainder of this series.
Yeah, but to that point, I think you're one day ahead.
Oh, that's right. We're not recording this on Thursday. That's right.
I know I'm looking for the weekend too, man, but come on. So slim chance. There you go. Slim chance that he could be back for the weekend series here. And that seems to be the realistic idea at the moment. But, to that point, unfortunately, I don't even think to what's going on right now with the Blue Jays that even that little bit of offensive boost right now, there's too many things of weird going back and forth. Obviously, having Springer back in the lineup is critical to having our playoff hosts hopes coming up and whatnot. But to that point, do you think he's enough to keep that offense back in the game? Because it's not been showing up over the last few days.
In a perfect world, you would think so, but with what we have seen, and again, small sample size, from what we have seen in terms of his recovery, especially when it comes to lower body injuries, it takes a while for him to fall back into a groove. Now, the thing about that separates this injury from the previous one is he was out for ostensibly, as far as we are hoping, previously he was out for a much, much longer period of time. So the more you're without your team and the more time you are spent without playing the game, the longer it's going to take for you to fall back into a groove. So hopefully, with his recovery time being as short as it is so far, assuming that he plays this weekend, it won't take him that long. However, again, with lower body injuries, with the history that we have of George Springer, not much, it might take him a while. But this does relieve the pressure off of someone like Vladdy, off of someone like Bo, to feel that it's up to them to make this shit happen on the rig. It's up to them to save the day, like last night with the bases loaded and the opportunity to tie the game against Detroit with Vladdy up. Might have been a lot of pressure. Might have been a little bit easier if George Springer was leading off in that inning, So there are these variables that are both consequential and advantageous. Hopefully, when he does come back, it doesn't take him long to get adjusted, and hopefully it gives this offense a spark, especially when it comes to runners in scoring position.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing the stat when they were propping that up the other night that we're batting like barely $125 or something like that with runners in scoring position. I'm not going to lie. Isn't that like most pitchers batting averages? And we all say pitchers can't hit with shit. So it's not just to say people get excited about position players pitching, not pitchers actually trying to bat. So just saying, unless you're apparently Jake DeGrom, but we won't see him till next year.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I agree with you. That is probably not going to be the ideal super oh my god return that you would hope that you would get from having George Springer back in the lineup. But to that point, like you said, it is taking the load off, and it's not like the last injury. he was pretty much the hottest player in baseball at the time
Yeah.
of getting hurt. And how much do you really lose what is over basically, a week that he quote unquote missed at this point, right? It's going to be a full 10 days easy by the time, because I guess he's technically eligible tomorrow to come off the 10-day IL. But to that point, just seeing him run the field, I don't know if he's been taking batting practice and all that kind of stuff. It just doesn't seem like it was big of a drastic measure to what he had dealt with the last time. Obviously he hadn't seen live pitching to the point where he had to obviously keep, something moving in the right direction there for him to actually get back on the field. But to that point, it still is an injury and it's a blip in the radar to the point of, he might have only missed so much, but it does mess with your timing. And to that point, that might be the issue with him getting back in the lineup. But I'm going to slip the agenda around here because, unfortunately, in his absence, the Blue Jays bats have gone cold. And I don't even know if I can say cold. Non-existent is about what it is. Other than splashing a random home run in here, this over there, it's been pretty rough to watch this offense over the last week. Definitely not hitting their averages, Adam. And to that point, the pitching's been pretty good outside of a couple of little performances that we will touch on later in the show. But how much has this offense let you down, and what do you think's been the biggest issue, or is it Springer?
I don't know that we can say that Springer is the reason why this offense hasn't been clicking, because, when he wasn't playing before, the offense was pretty hot, albeit in minor league fields. Let's be honest. I'm not trying to disrespect the fields that they were in, but they are minor league fields. So there might have been a slight advantage in that regard. I don't know. I just think this is the portion of the year in which you either have it or you don't. And right now, the Blue Jays offense, they're humming on the beginning of the summer and towards the middle of it. But now in the dog days of August, they're struggling, and they might just be tired. Again, we've talked about this before on the show, that a lot of these players haven't played a full season, especially players like Vladdy, Bo, Kevin, who's not here, but Kirk, like players that we rely on for offensive production haven't been here a full season. So it's maybe just growing pains and adjustments and whatnot. But I think without George Springer, it's I think it's negligible for the reason why the offense isn't clicking. I think it's just fatigue. That's not to say that if Springer was in the lineup, they wouldn't perform better. It might elevate them just a little bit, or just might elevate the team average just a little bit. But you gotta take advantage of opportunities. There was no reason to lose a series against Detroit. There was no reason to lose four series in a row against very beatable teams, And this does not, sort of lend me any confidence against teams like the Yankees or Oakland that are coming up, or even Tampa Bay, or even Chicago right now. It doesn't yield me a lot of confidence. But so the quicker that George Springer can get back, whether it's right away without a rehab start, that's preferable, the better.
I think that's where it's going to be, just because of that time frame we were talking there as far as his return. I really would be shocked if he goes for a rehab start. And if it is, it's literally just a tune-up. He's going for 1 or 2 games, boom, done, right back to the majors, So, but to that point, I just randomly ran through our last scoreboard since we went off the air on Thursday evening last week. The Blue Jays have been outscored 17-10, and that they didn't get shut out any of those nights, but there were some nights that they probably should have in the midst of those offensive nights. That losing 4-1 in the first game against Detroit, it's pretty damn rough. And then the fact of just dropping 2 out of 3 against Detroit. I did mention that if you completely null out the month of April, that the Detroit Tigers are actually a winning ball club, and damn near our record, actually, as far as win percentage anyway. It's pretty ridiculous on how their season has been and how bad it got off to a start, But to that point, they're not the White Sox. The White Sox were the team we were supposed to be struggling with. And as much as I don't want to see Tony La Russa ever even in baseball anymore yelling at his players the way he does, but he's there and waddling like a duck out to the mound. It is what it is. But that game last night got out of hand, but they were able to hold them down the rest of it. So there's something right in that midst of that equation. The pitching has been solid for outside of, like I said, we're going to talk about a couple people here in a few minutes. But the fact that there was a game there that they won 2-1 against the White Sox, that was a very pitching ended ball game. I was shocked that we only scored 2 runs in that game. They had plenty of opportunities and plenty of opportunities out this whole week. I wish I had it in front of me at what their actual batting for runners in scoring position was outside of the 100 number, because I have a feeling it's some ungodly number to like nothing as far as how many hits they had. I think they had in the one game we had 11 runners in scoring position and only turned one of them around, I think, and it was on I think that was the Sunday night game or the Sunday afternoon game against the Tigers.
Yep.
They had at least 12 or 13 runners in scoring position and were able to only bring around one of them. The other 2 were off a home run. So
I have the numbers right in front of me. So the first game against Detroit, they were 0 for 12 with runners in scoring position. The second game against Detroit, they were 0 for 2 and with runners in scoring position. So that's 0 for 14 over 2 games. And the third game
they won.
Yep. And the third game, you're right, 1 for 17. So what I say, 0 for 14. So they were 1 for 31 with runners in scoring position. That's really, really bad.
For a team that's boasting one of the best offenses in baseball, that is just a complete opposite and a U-turn to what they've been having as potential for the whole season. So to see that kind of thing all of a sudden, this is still the same players that were doing really, really well at the beginning of the year. And yeah, like you said, you're minus George Springer right now, but all the other guys are still the same. And this is still with upticks with Lourdes Gurriel Jr. doing better. Randall Grichuk's non-existent to this point, but Corey Dickerson's been doing pretty well in that same spot. Teoscar Hernandez even finally cooled off over the last week. And I don't know who picked to click him last week, but it's your fault. So sure. I want to say it was you. Yeah, it was you.
On brand.
So you broke it. But they haven't been able to really put together a entire sustainable amount of baseball games, both offensively and defensively in this whole season, I feel like. So to that point of where you're at right now, we had a better pitching week, kind of, and then no offense. And then the other weeks, it was the flip of that. Really, really rough offense or rough pitching weeks, and then we would have to just mash teams, which to that point, that's where our run differential looks so ridiculously good right now, because you were just bludgeoning certain teams to the point where you were running away with it. Is that how you've seen the last basically good month of Blue Jay baseball to that point?
Yeah, it's been a rough August. Like I said, there are 4 series in a row that you couldn't afford to cough up, especially with the wild card race being what it was, and especially against a team like Seattle. Seattle is one of those teams that should not be in front of you in the wild card race. They just shouldn't. And you let those games creep away from you. It was a 3-game series. These are missed opportunities, and right now the margin of error is very, very, very slim, and without the ability to sort of capitalize on them, right? And without the ability to sort of utilize these winnable games to creep closer for a wild card position, when you cough those up, again, I don't feel comfortable against teams like Chicago. I don't feel comfortable against teams like Oakland. I don't feel comfortable against teams like New York. Hell, we lost 2 in a row for a 2-game series against the Nationals. How much better? I mean, they have talent on the team, don't get me wrong. But when you lose series against Seattle and you tie series against LA and you lose series against Detroit and Washington, are you confident that they can welcome in teams like Oakland and New York, or even travel to New York and capitalize on that for a wild card spot? Like, the Yankees are sitting kind of pretty right now in their wild card endeavors.
Not to mention on a freaking 11-game winning streak at the moment.
And the Red Sox are right there too. Right, and they've won 2 straight, and it's coming down to a nice rivalry for that wild card game. You need to capitalize on these Blue Jays. You need to beat teams like Oakland, and you need to beat them pretty substantially. You need to just sweep teams like Baltimore. You cannot have these games that are extremely winnable just slip from your fingers. You need to sweep the Tigers. Right. So if you can,
they missed that opportunity. They have to right that ship right now. Otherwise, I am going full Shea Hillenbrand with this, and I'm sorry to say this ship is sinking.
Yeah. So what is it? It's 6 games total, Detroit and then Baltimore straight. You cannot go. You cannot win those series 2-2. You have to win them 3-3. You have to sweep them both. You have to. And if you don't, you're in an arms race with teams ahead of you. You got to pray that those teams are losing. So
that is just to keep pace.
Yeah, the most critical series of this season to determine their wild card hopes, I'm telling you, is going to be Oakland at home. Period. End of story.
I really think you're right with that, because as far as it goes, they're the team that's been hurting the most in this wild card race over the last 10 games. 2-8 over the last 10 games, where the Blue Jays are 3-7. Oh, yay, we gained a game on somebody. But to that point, the Seattle Mariners, I don't know what the hell's going on with them, but they're 7-3 over the last 10 days. Yep. And then, like you mentioned, the Red Sox have a just above 500 record and clinging to their second wild card spot. And the Yankees are starting to separate from that group, being 2 up on them. So it's amazing that we can say, even after all this nonsense and horribleness over the last week, that the Blue Jays are still somehow only 5.5 games out of a wild card spot. The way they've been playing, that should be an equally bigger number. We should start looking more like dreamers with the Cleveland Indians at 9, 10, games out. And that's the other thing that just kind of irks me about this whole thing, Adam. We know those next quote unquote wild card teams are the Indians, Angels, and Detroit, and they're all pushing double digits to get into the playoffs right now. So, and I think we're that much better than those teams. We shouldn't be in the same ballpark. But to the point of not being able to put everything together all at once, offensively or on the pitching side of the ball, we're sacrificing, we're suffering for it. And it's just where it is. So I do want to give props to the pitching staff almost as a whole, because over the last week, Steven Matz has done really good. Robbie Ray is a Cy Young Award winner, and I'm going to honestly be really frustrated if he doesn't get some votes, especially with Shohei Ohtani's not getting all the press that he has been doing. He's a little slumpy. So to that point, what do you think as far as the pitching staff over the last week and how the offense, unfortunately, has let them down over that?
Yeah, I have no complaints. In terms of the production, it's been better than anticipated. The bullpen's still kind of garbage. I'm extremely frustrated with Montoyo and the stubbornness not to pitch Romano back-to-back games. This is put up or shut up time. I don't care what the analytics are saying. I don't care what Alpha 5 is telling you to do. You need to win games, right? And it's serious. And we joke about it. We joke about the analytics department and what the computers are saying and whatnot. And I know at the end of the day, the baseball is a data-driven game right now. But he's playing for his job. Like I sincerely think Montoyo, I'm not saying he's on the hot seat, but I'm still not convinced that he is the manager of the future. And it's decisions like these, albeit maybe not completely his own, it's decisions like these that are going to cost you games, right? You need to win games. You are not playing not to lose. You are playing to win. So win the game. Put your pitcher out there. Put your best pitcher. Yes.
I think we have seen it, that a full out, especially, and I think even that's been even more exaggerated over the last week, the play not to lose thing. I'm sorry, you got to grind this out. We're a better team than that. Fucking put the damn pedal to the metal and run with this thing. And you have to do that, to your point, you have to put the guy that you trust the most in that opportunity to win. As much as actually I enjoyed watching Connor Overton pitch last night, he shouldn't have ever been in that damn game to begin with if we were able to get off some starting pitching. But to that point, I don't know how much of what was wrong with Jose Barrios and the fact that the White Sox have seen him for years, too many times probably. So yes, if he was a little bit off and the White Sox know what to look for, I'm sorry to say that's what 2 innings looks like sometimes. But the pitching has looked great. Robbie Ray's off to another wonderful start tonight with his 3rd strikeout already in 2 innings. So, but you can't rely on everything, and we need to get it all going at once. And to that point, I really am starting to question the fact that they gave Charlie Montoyo the quote-unquote next year contract, and what really needs to be shaking up. Right now, that's where I'm looking to shake things up. I know he's trying to mess with the lineup to tweak it and whatnot, but I don't think the lineup is what the problem is. It's the lack of motivation or something. There's that little piece, the nugget, whatever it is. that is missing here. And I'm wondering how much it's the locker room presence of somebody like that versus somebody like we saw on the other side of the ball that the White Sox are doing pretty damn good with a lot of young players, with the old veteran guy across the field today. As much as I don't like him anyway, but he knows how to win baseball games.
Yeah, I don't know that it necessarily has to be a veteran guy in order to spark. I mean, your point is taken. I just don't know that Montoyo is suited as a manager. That has nothing to do with his, baseball knowledge. I'm sure his baseball IQ is quite high. It has to be for, how long he's been in at least a coaching role, especially in one of the most respected organizations, that being the Rays.
Yeah.
I just think that there are certain people that can resonate with their players, and I'm not saying that this isn't like football, right? There's no rah in when it comes to baseball, at least none that I can actively see. I just don't know that he's the guy. I don't know that I envision him being the type of manager that's going to lead this team to a World Series championship. Maybe I'm wrong. I would like to be.
I hope you
and
are.
Yeah, I hope so too. And again, it may not be all his decisions not to pitch certain players in certain opportunities or certain times. It may be the analytics spitting out numbers saying this is the best pitcher for this time. Maybe, but I just think that you need to trust your gut. And it's time that people put their big boy pants on and say, "Hey, look, you're going to pitch 2 nights in a row. You can rub some I don't know, icy hot on your little
Yeah.
boo boo if it hurts, and just you got to pitch. We're paying you to pitch, not to pitch every other day."
Yeah, and to that point right now, that the workload thing could change very drastically over the next 2 weeks. Right now, they should be hurrying up and getting whoever they can out there. And okay, great, we fucked up. Okay, here's your break and your time, and we're going to start working guys like Connor Overton and to the point where we can see how they fit into this team next year. These next 2 weeks are the Blue Jays season. If they don't first take down the Tigers and then the Orioles over this week, this is going to be a very, very cold, bleak talk next week for the Jays fans on this show if we can't figure out a way to, get some wins going here over the next week, because this is their season in the next 2 weeks. Otherwise, they're going to be too far out. Even though they are going to be playing a lot of those teams, there's too much to go through on that point. It's going to be a little rough, I think, Adam, that we can even get anywhere if we don't do something in the next week.
Yeah. Like I said, they're in control of their own destiny at this point, and it's going to either come down to bold or stubborn, boneheaded positions. What do you have to lose? What do you have? If the goal is to make a playoff run, if you made these trades to make a playoff run, you need all hands on deck. You can't be finessing with, oh, well, we need to make sure this guy is fresh or whatnot. If that's the case, if you're going to play that game, you got to run your starters out for longer than what you have.
Yeah.
You got to let them go a little bit more than, I don't know, 5, 6, even 7 innings. Let them pitch into the 8th. If you're going to be the stubborn, if they're in a groove, if you're going to be the stubborn and you're going to go with the Trent Thorntons of the world, I'm sorry, you're not going to make the playoffs, right? You can't hope for a prayer that something's going to click. And again, these upcoming games, this winnable series upcoming against Detroit is crucial. The Oakland series is absolutely crucial for if they lose that series, I think it's it. I think it's a wrap.
Yeah, and to that point, that if you're going to take advantage of anything right now, you have an opportunity over the next week to kick the A's while they're down and steal it from them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing. And in the midst of that, whoever wins that series might be the other wild card, because I still don't think Boston's got it all clicking right either.
You don't think so?
I don't know. There's something I enjoyed them up into the last week, but even watching their highlights and stuff for the last week, there's some flaws going on in that team. Yeah. Mm. And they're starting to rise to the surface, I think, as we were talking about, even with the Blue Jays now that, people are getting tired near the end of the season. Mm. Those same guys that have been carrying them all season are starting to look a little thin as far as that kind of goes. They've managed to win 6 out of their last 10. But to that point, I wonder how much of it is going to keep continuing, or if them going, that kind of just above 500 baseball is enough to string them into the playoffs. I think whoever gets this momentum over the next week, and it could be the Oakland A's finally waking back up and running back into that playoff spot. And they're neck and neck right now. That's how it is. It's going to be. I really think that series will be, like, to your point, the Blue Jays put up or shut up, especially if they don't get to that series with something winning in their pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, so they have Detroit after this series. It's a good time for the Blue Jays to take advantage because Oakland at home has 4 against the Yankees. 4. So if the Blue Jays can capitalize on with this series, if they can split against the White Sox, I'm just asking for a split. I'd love it if they won 2 more. But if they can split against the White Sox, sweep Detroit, and the Yankees pummel on Oakland, there's some ground right there, right? They have ground to gain. Then the Blue Jays face Baltimore, and unfortunately, the A's have Detroit after that. So I mean, it
But
might
to
not
that
be in
point,
their
like I
favor.
said, Detroit's not rolling over and dying. They're in the trying to establish themselves for next season role. So they're going to take
we
it
saw,
to the
we saw
freaking
it.
A's. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
we saw
unfortunately
it.
seeing it. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and we have to go through that same thing again this weekend. But like I said, there is a lot that could happen in the Blue Jays' favor, but they, in the meantime, have to hurry up and figure out how to put offense and pitching together and find some way to get that going. And to that point, we get to face Lucas Giolito tonight. It's just, it's not much fun. And I was just trying to look up who they're facing to close out the series tomorrow. And it's going to be Ryu, I know for us. Carlos Rodon. He's a slouch. Well, I'm sure we'll have a really good time with him tomorrow. So, and I know Ryu's been swinging back up hopefully in the right direction here, but I think tonight, if they're hoping to split the series, they need to get Giolito, because I think it's going to get that much harder tomorrow night with Rodon. And Giolito has been very hit or miss this year, so with our luck, we'll get hit from Giolito running away with a game on a near no hitter or something. But to that point, I'm hoping that me saying that just jinxed that.
Yeah.
So. But then rolling into the weekend, like I said, we're not getting anything to be, crazy easier, having to face the Detroit Tigers in Detroit.
Right.
They're only four. It's amazing what records look like, but they're really only 4 wins behind us for the season.
Yeah. But again, that probably is the worst division in baseball. Let's be honest, right? I would think the Central is, it's definitely up there. I'm confident
though. I was expecting the Twins to be a lot better this year.
Yeah, I mean, the NL Central is not that much better, but the AL Central is just disgusting. So if we're talking about interdivisional games between Detroit and the rest of the Central, that might have something to do with the influencing their record. But against competition, look, I don't want to hate on him because he's been great all year. But that misplay by Simeon was more than costly. We're talking about a different series if that was right to the chest, right? And that was a winnable game, right? It was sealed. It was done. So those little mishaps can't happen. And obviously those things aren't necessarily repeatable. They typically aren't when it comes to veteran players like Simeon. So if we find ourselves in a position like that, I'm not saying the exact same play, but I wouldn't anticipate any sort of boneheaded plays when we play teams like Detroit and Baltimore. And if we can eliminate those, which I'm fairly certain we can, and just adequate bullpen play, we should be able to win those games.
Should be able to. And like we were talking about, hopefully it sounds like the other guy we forgot to mention here too that could help the bullpen is Joaquin Soria. May apparently threw live BP to George Springer today. That's the headline I just literally read while you were talking. So, like I said, hopefully they get this going and they can figure that out. But the one last thing I want to talk to you about before we get into some of the normal everyday things, and actually not last thing, it's only been a half hour in, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, we've been doing like crap, move on. Hurry up and hopefully get something going. But I want to talk Jose Barrios, and I want to talk to the point of what are you seeing? Because I propped him up pretty good last week after the quote unquote rough start. And I had mentioned a minute ago that the White Sox got to see a lot of him over the last few years.
Yep.
So was that part of it or what? But he gave up, he's charged 5 earned runs, 4 while he was on the mound, I believe. So That's pretty damn rough for a guy that was expected to be, quote unquote, one of the better pitchers in baseball coming in our direction, especially one of the better pitchers being traded at the trade deadline. We have him for another season, so I am only so worried about it. But how critical is his success to the Blue Jays actually having a freaking go at this?
Oh, it's obvious because Pete Walker got tossed, right? And then obviously that's what ruined the roadshow. No, what have I been seeing from Barrios? Not much. I mean, not as much as I would like to.
I understand you're not seeing much other than runs put up on the board for the other team, but
right.
just
yeah, 6 Ks. That's okay. He only gave up 1 dinger. It was 4 out of 4 runs to earn run ratio there, so all his runs were earned. I don't know if it's an adjustment. I don't know if it was the fact that he was playing a team within the division that he sort of fell off. Maybe, the division he used to play for, maybe that influenced it. I wouldn't be surprised if it was because they've done their homework. They being the White Sox have done their homework on him and they're familiar with him.
He was pitching when he was with the Twins against them this year before last night.
Right. So I don't know. I think that maybe it's just an adjustment period and maybe he too is fatigued. I hope to God there's nothing physically wrong with him. I hope it is just exhaustion. But again, it's all hands on deck. He just seems like maybe he's trying to do a little too much. And I don't know that he's trying to prove himself to a team that, actively traded for him. But I don't want to speculate that it's a mental thing when it comes to him. I just think that it's just an adjustment. And do I think that he's going to pitch better than this? Yeah, I think he'll all even out. And I'm not at all, upset or regretful when it comes to the trade. I still would have made the trade. And I think next year he's going to be extremely valuable for a rotation that, as of today, only consists of really 3 people. So I'm not overly concerned, but again, when it comes to the margin of error for this team, it's very slim. So remember back when we were
4 games against the White Sox this year, and they've hit him pretty hard every time.
There you go.
They've been a good 286 against him for those 4 games.
Okay. All right. So it's
5
familiar,
home runs, which is the most of any team he's given away over the last few years.
When it comes to Barrios, he's not losing a rotation spot. But remember the parallel I'll sort of draw to it. Again, it's not a direct one, but remember earlier in the season when I said, okay, I'm going to give Ross Stripling one more start. I'm going to give him one more start to see how he performs. And then he completely bounced back and made adjustments. I'm going to give Barrios one more start to prove that he can help this team in their playoff aspirations. I'm not saying if he, screws up or underperforms again, I want him out of the rotation. None of that sort. It just makes me,
that point with these games being high risk right now, you're worried if he's not right, you don't want to put him on the hill, or at least for a start. Maybe
it's more that I don't have confidence that he can get us to where we need to be, and he's good. He's a great addition to the rotation that was already thin as it was, but it's going to take more than just him to really stabilize this rotation. Now, I have my eyes a little bit more towards 2022 than a postseason run in 2021 if he's not going to do exactly what the Blue Jays traded him to do.
Correct.
Traded for him to do, I should say.
I got you. So I'm with you in that same boat, but I honestly I didn't even think about that whole thing you just mentioned there. It's like, okay, these are critical innings. All hands on deck. You're hoping for the best for him. If he gets rough another again, that'll be 3 rough starts right in a row for him.
Mm-hmm.
And a week that we were just saying that is mission critical for the Blue Jays to having a real go at the playoffs. That second start in the next 2, I might be thinking is he would be technically due to start, I think Sunday then would be the 5th day.
So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Okay. So hits that rough start then on Monday, come the next weekend, they'll be playing the Orioles. Maybe it's
a winnable game.
Maybe that's the last chance to make sure he's right before you go take on the Oakland A's.
Yeah, and even in that 1, 2, 3, he'd be in line to pitch the last game against Oakland, so that's Sunday. to start to have a bounce back performance to start a series against Baltimore is advantageous. That is something that I hope he's licking his chops for and saying, okay, that is a confidence boosting game. That is something that I can
Oh, I'm
really
about to
dig
ruin
my
your
heels into.
confidence.
Why was that?
I'm still looking at the opponents for this year for him, and he actually had 2 rough starts against the Orioles earlier in this season.
Yeah, but that was like early Baltimore.
He was rough to begin with before he really,
Yeah.
got to his form. So I'm taking that with a grain of salt. But 2 starts and giving up. Where was it? I just lost it. No, they were batting 226. So I guess regardless that they were 2 rough starts, that maybe he did that to himself just as much. So,
Yeah.
Anyways, to that point
And that's
though,
before
complete
the
opposite.
epic collapse.
Yeah, complete opposite against a couple of other teams that he would be facing down the stretch. So, and apparently he just chews up the Red Sox. So that wouldn't be the worst thing to eventually if we did get in the playoffs and ended up facing anybody or whatnot. So I can see why looking at the AL East numbers that the Blue Jays were very intrigued by having Rios on this team to begin with, other than obvious that he looks normally like a good pitcher. And I don't think there's any shadow of a doubt that he's still going to be a good pitcher for this ball club. But
yes,
right now, have to win. Got to figure something out. And if we can't get him hitting on all cylinders over the next week here, which is unfortunately a pretty damn quick U-turn for anybody to all of a sudden say, your adjustment period is over. It could be rough, right? I really would think that they got to think about how they can stagger him around and get him to eat up innings properly when they know they have to win over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, he's got these winnable games. He's got these opportunities to sort of sink his teeth into them and take advantage of it and build that confidence. And if the Jays want to, make a postseason push, I'd be surprised if they didn't have a players only meeting. I really would be.
I'm kind of surprised something hasn't happened like that already with the fact that of all these veterans that are now on this club. And I honestly wonder how that would correspond with a certain George Springer return as well.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, that players only meeting might be pending how these next 2 days go.
Yeah.
It really could be. So, but I do think that somebody needs to rattle the cages, whether that's Montoyo or somebody internally to the Blue Jays clubhouse. Something ain't right, and they know they're better than this. And you can see it all over them. They're frustrated as hell, but they're all pressing because they are frustrated as hell. And that leads to, unfortunately, what we've been seeing over the last 2-3 weeks. Basically since the homestand and the Barrio jacket came out into play, period. So I'm not going to blame it on the jacket, though. That's fun.
Yeah.
To that point, I'm going to talk about maybe giving the Barrio jacket to another gentleman that was a little separate of a special celebration, once again coming at the cost of the Toronto Blue Jays fandom, and that was watching Miguel Cabrera hit his 500th career home run against the Toronto Blue Jays this weekend. I love Miguel Cabrera, easily one of my favorite players that's played baseball outside of the Toronto Blue Jays. Guy's just fun. He has a good time. He plays the game the way it's supposed to be. I just really wish that it wasn't a home run against the Toronto Blue Jays. But then again, it came in a game where, correct me if I'm wrong, that didn't lead to anything to the Blue Jays. That was the 3-2 win, right?
Correct.
If I remember right. Correct. So if he was going to pick a day to do it, all right, great. He did it against us, and we still happen to win the ball game. So, but to that point, was that fun for you to watch? It was a weird home run. It kind of flipped it to the other side, and there you go. But very typical Miguel Cabrera, even how he started his career with the Marlins.
I don't hate it. I mean, I'm being honest. Actually, sorry, that was the Sunday game, I think.
Yeah.
In which they lost. That was the Simeon error.
Yeah,
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. And look, Toronto fans were super classy, right? There was no booing. They knew the moment. They understood. They read the room, and they gave him the ovation that he deserved. This is someone that he might be one of the best right-handed hitters I've ever seen, and I've seen him live. And I remember I saw him up in the Rogers Center, and he had a home run, and there was a Detroit fan behind me, and I said, "Oh man, that was a fantastic home run or something like that." He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, first one, huh?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's my first time seeing a Miggy home run live." And he's like, "Yeah, it's a thing of beauty," and it is. And I just think when you have those moments in baseball, these milestone moments, you're not going to forget them. And whether it is for or against your favorite team, it's part of witnessing history of the game, right? It as painful as it is, right? Would I hate seeing a perfect game pitched against the Blue Jays? No, I just think that'd be kind of cool. Like, how often do you get to experience one of those? So, on the one hand, it sucks that it's against your favorite team, but on the other hand, you're witnessing baseball history. Same thing with the first challenge ever made in baseball was John Gibbons on, I think it was against Tampa Bay. It was a slide to second, and the Blue Jays lost that challenge, but it's in the record books. The Blue Jays were the first team to challenge ever, right? So again, Miggy hitting his 500 home run against the Blue Jays. I just focus on the against the Blue Jays kind of thing, and I just take pride in it.
To that point, I think that was literally probably the only bad pitch that Steven Matz threw the other night.
Oh yeah, it was a meatball.
So Miguel Cabrera joins the 500 home run club with that. Only 28 members in all of Major League Baseball history. One Blue Jay guy on the outside looking in, and Fred McGriff at 497. Not a Hall of Famer. Everybody else on this list either probably will be a Hall of Famer in the very near future, or already is. Mm-hmm. And then there's 10 people that joined during the steroid era, but that's a whole nother argument. Yep. But to me, Miguel Cabrera is a first ballot Hall of Famer, class act player, insanely hard nosed, batted above 300 while doing all this too. 500 home runs is that plateau that you would think that, and I honestly am a true believer that if somehow, I think that's the one reason Fred McGriff gets looked over. Well, he was only 3 home runs short of 500. And I'm like, okay, well, great, but he was one of the best playoff bats of all time for the Braves. But don't worry about all that. But Miguel Cabrera is just a constant professional and honestly ambassador of the game, and I love watching him. I was very happy to see that, regardless of the fact of what you were saying, that it was against the Blue Jays. Okay, we're a footnote in history on that. We've been that for 2 Justin Verlander no hitters, of James Paxton no hitter, all these things, and we have 1 no hitter in our whole career of history with Dave Stieb. So this is how the ball rolls, and sometimes we'll get our turn, especially with the Blue Jays players that we have coming through here. I didn't think about this until I just said it. Do you think any of the Blue Jays' current rosters or youngsters actually has a chance to even eclipse some kind of major league milestone like this with the 500 home runs or anything like that? Is there anybody that you think has the career makeup to be able to do that? Or are we looking at guys that are who I like, to that point also, a guy like Bo Bichette, I think, could do a 30-30 season. Things like that. Is there anything that you would put on Blue Jays in the next maybe 10, 15 years of current roster guys, or think that you would think might have a chance at doing something cool like that in a Blue Jay uniform for a chance?
In a Blue Jay uniform. All right, so I guess the person that has the best chance obviously would be Vladdy. I think he has the power, and he's young enough that he can do it in a pretty decent chunk of time.
That's the key right there, is the young enough factor.
Yeah, especially if they extend them, and we're looking at probably like an 8 to 10 year extension anyway with Vladdy. Yep. When that happens, I should say. I think he has the best chance of doing so, but looking at the other players in the lineup right now, especially those that are going to be around for the long term, you figure Teoscar is going to be around for the long term. I don't see that in his makeup. I definitely don't see it from Bo. Power's just not necessarily there to hit 500 home runs for a career. I
see a lot of guys that are going to have a lot of 100 RBI seasons in our future.
Yeah,
but having that crazy potential to be able to run away with some kind of. I was curious what your opinion would be on that, because I was thinking that same thing. The only one that's really super young enough is Vlad, and the only other guy I can think of that might actually have a chance at something pretty crazy is he's the only one I think that could even get you in the ballpark of 3,000 hits. Maybe Bo Bichette. But looking at our minor league systems, like Relvis Martinez just fucking hits all day, every day. You look at him hit in the minor leagues, he's going to be in that same ballpark as Vlad. That he's young enough that he could maybe do something crazy with his career stats. But it's insanely hard to do. All Major League history, 28 players that have ever hit 500 home runs. To even say that we have a guy that, as an outside chance, I thought was pretty cool, and that's why I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, I think he has the best chance out of anybody, and honestly, he's the most obvious candidate, right? Lourdes is not going to do it. Cavan's not going to do it if he's still on the team. Kirk's not going to do it. Even the young guys coming up, Grosjean's definitely is not going to do it. There's just I just don't see anybody else. And I think the last Blue Jay player to do it, wasn't it Thomas?
Frank Thomas hit his 500th home run as a Blue Jay, but like that's one you would never in a million years predict.
No.
He was one of those guys to me that was a shoo-in to be a Chicago White Sox his whole
He's
career.
a White Sox forever. Yes.
And that's all I ever picture him as. And as much as I loved watching him those 2 years as a Blue Jay fan, because he was the reason that we all got excited those few years. We have this good lineup, and then we have Frank Thomas in the 5-hole. There's no way we can fail, right? Oh, well, yeah, we had David Eckstein in the leadoff spot, batting 200. And our stand-up player those couple of years was Marco Scutaro, just saying.
There you go. I think we traded him for Scutaro.
I love Scutaro, but
yeah,
it was that year. Yeah, it was those years that Marco Scutaro was there. We were getting the Eric Hinsky really wasn't doing anything at third base. Then we were hoping Brett Lawrie came in and ran with it. The Colby Rasmus years. There's just too much fun going on there, and honestly, those overhyped years are actually why I'm starting to feel like that my optimism's fading for this season to that point. But I digress. I don't know how you feel on that, or if you even want to touch it. But
it smells familiar. I
did literally name this episode after a Shea Hillenbrand quote. Just saying.
Not a lot of people picked up on it, but those that did,
those that did, you've obviously been as pain and suffering as long as Adam and I and Brendan. So get your Angry Birds hats ready, fans.
It's not on a whiteboard. It doesn't count.
Yeah, I know. I don't have a whiteboard. There's nowhere, I got to hurry up and figure that out so I can put cheeky shenanigans up in my new room here. So, but anyway, what's next for this team? Where we currently stand? Are you planning your off season already, Mr. Corsair, or are you hoping to finally catch fire and run away with something? I know what you're hoping, but what do you think is realistic?
Again, it's really hard to gain confidence against teams like Detroit and Baltimore if you're not winning series against Seattle, LA you split, again, Detroit, Washington. These are games that you should be winning. The only advantageous thing about that is that, minus the Detroit series, is that they're still going to be home. So, well, against, with the exception of Detroit this weekend, but Baltimore, they're going to be home. And then they're leading into an Oakland series. So, what do I think is going to happen? I think they're going to play slightly above average. I don't know that it's going to be good enough. They're not playing like a playoff team. Are they on paper a playoff team? Sure, right? But you have teams that apparently the AL East just decided to catch fire this year, minus Baltimore, right? So you have a lot of yeah. You have a lot of competition in front of you. Somehow Seattle is like, I don't know how many games over 500 they are, but they're sneaky okay, I guess. I want them to make a playoff push. I want to be super excited. I want to watch October baseball. There's nothing like it. The cold weather watching baseball, it's great.
Dome field advantage.
Yeah. Even that, just the stress and the white knuckling of the chair of a 1-game wild card series or just a game. It's delightful. I just love it. Even if we don't win, I just love having the opportunity to say, hey, we made it to the playoffs. Do I think they will? Not if these teams ahead of them are still performing the way they do, and not if they keep coughing up games. So as of right now, I'm cautiously optimistic. By this time next week, depending on whether or not my child is born, we're going to know. I'm going to know. I'm going to make it.
I'm going to get your rant on recording, and I'm just going to play it during the show.
Look, I'll send it in a phone call. If they cough up series and this time next week, they're for the next handful of games it's below 500, they don't have a shot.
Yeah. Tend to agree with you. And I'm not quite in the honeymoon phase here where I'm counting the season out 100%, but I am starting to wonder, and I think I'm going to blame Connor Overton, honestly, now that I mentioned him 3 times in this episode. Watching him pitch yesterday got me a little excited. Okay, what else do we have roaming around in our minor league system that could actually help us next year? And if we are out of it in the next 2 weeks, that's the planning we're in right now. That's September call-up baseball for a team that doesn't get to make the playoffs. That's what you're trying to do. Major league experience for guys that didn't get it, that wouldn't have had a chance otherwise to play with the Blue Jays that season unless we were in that, no fun mode for the playoffs. But there is a chance the stars could align perfectly, but it is going to take the Blue Jays playing way above 500 level baseball and counting on the Yankees, Red Sox, or the Oakland A's tanking all of a sudden to that point.
Yeah.
Like I said, we are playing 2 of those 3 teams, but yes. And in all reality, I hope the real Mariners show up too would be the other wild card on that. And by real Mariners, I mean the ones that don't know how to win baseball games that they shouldn't be winning.
Yeah, look, I don't want to give off an impression that these mid-season moves and the signing of George Springer and whatnot were all for nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly not. I would still make this Barrios trade. And again, we watched Riley Adams take the Blue Jays on a clinic for those 2 games, but he wasn't going to be part of this team's future, and Brad Hand is awful, but it's not like there would be anything else really given to us just for Riley Adams straight up. Right. So I don't regret anything.
It would have looked very oddly similar to Brad Hand in some fashion.
Yeah, and Adams wasn't going to be a part of this team's future. So the only thing that you sacrificed, really, and I say only things, I don't mean that lightly, and in terms of the quality here, but Austin Martin and SWR, those are the things that will put a dent in your minor league system. But at the same time, you still have Barrios for another year, right? So it didn't determine necessarily anything about the Blue Jays' long-term future when it comes to these moves. So I'm still excited for this team. I'm still optimistic for the future and what it holds, and maybe a 2022, depending on the aggressiveness of the offseason to be when it comes to this front office. I'm still very optimistic, but when it comes to the end of the season, they're just slumping at the worst time, the worst possible, and they're wasting Robbie Ray starts by the day, right?
Hurtfully.
So, yeah. No, what do we have? Still no score? Yeah, 0-0. Okay.
Yeah. So, but to that point, the other reason that they were able to even think about moving somebody like, Riley Adams, who actually has a shot to be, to me, he's going to be Yan Gomes in a few years.
Wow.
I really think that's his ceiling, right? He's going to find, he's a good catcher. He's a good catcher. He's going to find a way to get, good offense and, drive in some runs and probably bat you around 230, 240. But to that point, handle a pitching staff. That's what you were going to get from Riley Adams as your best case scenario, right? To that point, in our minor league system right now, we have a guy that might win the minor league MVP period in Gabriel Moreno.
Right.
And his emergence, batting a mere 373 for the season in the minor leagues, is the reason Riley Adams all of a sudden is like, okay, well, why are we holding down a 40-man roster spot for Riley Adams when we could get something that could help us win right now? And that's what the Blue Jays tried to do. They rolled the dice on a guy that they liked in the offseason. We have yet to see what everybody else saw the last year and a half from Brad Hand, who was a good pitcher until basically a month before the Blue Jays started trading for him.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. I really hope that we get the last bit of good baseball out of Brad Hand over the next month, because that is another key thing that we need to get. And these guys stepping up and continuing to help this team win. And I still think he's got something there, but I can't have him in high leverage innings. I would rather be taking a wild card and throwing somebody out there right now, anybody. And to that point, we have enough young guys in that bullpen right now that are hungry and want to eat up those innings, and a couple of them might be earning spots to that. And hopefully we get Soria and either Nate Pearson or Julian Merriweather back in the next couple weeks here, and we can continue to have this conversation with some better players involved.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah. That's now that maybe that would be next week's episode name.
There you
go. So anyway, Adam, it's unless you have something else to add to the actual Blue Jays news and fandom, it's time for Picks the Click. All right, so I already let the cat out of the bag that you're the hex of Teoscar Hernandez by picking him last week. I had Alejandro Kirk. He did about as good as Teoscar. And a couple key hits, I'll give him that. But then again, to the point of what you just said, I'm thinking Brandon Panikar blows us away with Robbie Ray.
Yeah. again.
So I'm gonna call that one up, and I'll make sure I text him after the show, in case he's not listening. That he's earned. I think that means he took the lead.
Did he already have it or no?
He had the lead. He's separating now. He's got 2 wins on me, 1 by me.
What was the week before?
I gave it to him for Teoscar. That was the last hot week that he had.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
That was the night we were waiting for that last game for it.
Yeah, we didn't need to.
But right now, Robbie Ray's doing pretty damn good in the start that we're seeing so far, and he had one of the better starts of the season the other day. So, and obviously he blew away our 2 picks, so that's the easy win for him. So. Anyway, seeing he's not here to go first, and you are currently the 2 behind from him, what's your pick for this week? Who do you think gets hot and runs away with something this week?
I don't have the confidence to go Vladdy, even though that would be bold. I don't have the confidence to do that. On
the pitching side, you would probably get 2 starts from Hyunjin Ryu, and probably Alek Manoah would be 2.
Yeah, Manoah was okay yesterday. He wasn't crazy good, but he was all right. We're looking at starts against Detroit and Baltimore, huh? Yeah, Baltimore's the team that I think Baltimore's the team that got him ejected.
I think that was the game.
Yeah, let's go Manoah. Let it fly.
Just gonna run with it and hope that he runs away with it.
Yeah,
he did good against them. Didn't he have a second start against them already?
I think
when they were still in Buffalo. Yeah, I remember him doing pretty damn well. Oh wait, that's right. He's only done well. He's only done well outside of one start, right?
Yeah.
We'll have to get Brendan to phone in his pick, but to me, I had one on my head, and I'm second guessing myself right now. I'm gonna go with Lourdes. He's hit the Orioles pretty well, so I'm not maybe so much this week against the Detroit, this weekend against Detroit, but I think his series against mashing the Orioles at the beginning of the week there will help me out.
Okay.
So that's my idea. And fans, don't forget that we keep forgetting to tell all of you every week, so we kind of just end up having our fan guest spot chalk back up to the Robbie Ray spot for our good friend Chris Key.
Of course.
But to that point, make sure you submit those, and we'll give you a shout out if you happen to give the the good pick of the week for who's going to stand out in the between recordings on our show. And we try to land on each week where we're in between series on off day. I don't think we actually have one of those this week because they actually play all basically, right? Do we have a Thursday off? No.
Next Thursday.
Yep. So we'll have to, meet up and see what the heck's going on with your life by that next week for when we're recording, but we'll talk.
You will know. Yeah.
Any last final words, sir?
No, it's just they're not out of it. I don't want anyone to think that we're relaying a sense of pessimism here. They're not out of it. They just have to clean it up. And if they can clean it up, I will be cheering just as loud as anybody for this team, no matter what happens in that wild card game. Even if it's like the second wild card, that series against Tampa Bay where we got pummeled. I'll still be watching, still be cheering, still be loving it. This team has potential, and they just got to click, and they've done it before. That we've seen it. We've seen them click perfectly. Just got to click, and let's hope the month of September yields that. That's it.
So you want next week's episode to be called "I Don't Hear No Fat Lady."
Yeah, that's it. Unless they get swept by Detroit and then take, at that point, a sweep against Baltimore. If they lose to 3 against Detroit and 3 against Baltimore, cue the fat lady. Yeah.
To that point, I knew Robbie Ray was having a hell of a season, right? But the graphic they just showed on where he is in MLB rankings for strikeouts is slightly ridiculous. I didn't realize he had more strikeouts than Corbin Burns, who is having one of the best Major League Baseball seasons, only eclipsed by, Jake DeGrom and Zach Wheeler, basically, right? in the National League. He is 2 strikeouts behind Garrett Cole for the second place in the majors. That's slightly ridiculous.
Yeah,
so,
it's good company.
Pay that man.
Yes. Yes.
That will easily be a show title name sooner or later. Pay the Ray.
Yes. Give me Ray over Simeon. I don't even think that's a hot take.
I don't even think it's a hot take either. We need pitching.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like there's enough offense in our lineup already and with what's coming down the pipe to make up that. But when you just traded Simeon Woods Richardson, who was your next closest arm, because I don't know what I'm getting from Nate Pearson to the point I know where you agree on that yet, to say that I can even give him a chance past a tryout next spring. So at that point, you got to hurry up and lock up pitching. And that is a pretty damn, a well-rested Jose Barrios ready to come in and hopefully click. You'll have Hyunjin Ryu and then Robbie Ray at the top of that rotation. That is pretty fearsome and should be able to take anybody for years to come here if we can figure out how to keep them around. So to that point, if you have nothing else to add, I think it's that time where we do 2 claps and a Ric Flair.
Let's do it.
Woo! Let's go Blue Jays, and thank you, Stadium Scene.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers.
Peace.